if you're kind of acting like your wedding day is your last day on earth, which a lot of people do, you're gonna make decisions that might be good for your wedding day or what you think might be good for your wedding day that have very strong negative effects after that. Welcome to the Unveiled Bride podcast. I'm Kyle James, and I used to be a wedding planner. Now I teach brides like you how to plan the weddings and happily ever afters of their dreams. This show is the candid, unfiltered conversations you would have with your bestie if she was a wedding planner. So grab your favorite caffeinated beverage and let's talk weddings. Hey, blushing brides. Welcome back to the Unveiled Bride podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk all about post-wedding depression. Post-wedding depression is real. Every bride I've ever talked to after their wedding goes through some version of this. So I'm someone who hates to let negative things into my bubble at all because I know that what you focus on, you get more of. But in some cases, I feel like it's good to know about these types of things so that you can put intention and energy toward the opposite / toward what you do want. Most people don't talk about this because after your wedding day, you're supposed to be so happy and it was supposed to be so worth it. And oh my gosh, you're in honeymoon phase and living happily ever after. And so no one's going to be like, I actually feel kind of shitty. But this is a real thing and it happens probably the most of the time, the majority of the time. It's just not talked about very much, but I'm obviously changing that today. In this episode, first I'll go through what it is and why it happens, and then I will share with you my best advice for avoiding it so that you and your partner can wake up the next day after your wedding just so stoked about life. So what is post-wedding depression? It's basically feeling low, sad, and kind of like you don't have a purpose anymore. It might sound ridiculous and very first world problem-y, but it really is a real thing. A lot of brides and a lot of couples are just exhausted and okay, what do I do now? They just put so much into planning their wedding and had so much focus on their wedding day that the next day comes around and they're just okay, just back to normal life. I don't know what to do now. So why does this happen? There are a ton of factors that can contribute to this. And if you have a little bit of each factor, it's all going to weigh on each other and kind of snowball into feeling pretty shitty the days and weeks after your wedding day, which is obviously not what we want. So make sure that you continue listening to this so that you can get to the part where I tell you how to avoid this. But first, I think it's important to know why it can happen so that you can make sure that you're not doing these things throughout your process. So number one is you are so excited and running on adrenaline on the wedding day. So you have all of those chemicals pumping in your body and you're so happy and it's so awesome. And honestly, most people are just totally running on adrenaline, especially if you're nervous about talking in front of people. I know that a lot of people are. So you're just riding really high on emotion on that day. And so the next days and weeks, you kind of come down from that. And I think you kind of feel like that your whole process. You're so excited once you get engaged, and then you have all these things to be excited about and really looking forward to your wedding day. So you really are just experiencing really, really high emotions throughout the whole process. And that can seem like a stark difference if you wake up the next day after your wedding and you don't have that to look forward to anymore. And so you don't have anything to make you super stoked and happy about life. So you'll definitely notice the difference just due to the contrast. Another reason post-wedding depression is such a thing is because you're overemphasizing the once-in-a-lifetime-ness of your wedding day. So your wedding day is important. Don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm saying oh, it's not important. Don't worry about it. It is very important and it's the first day of the rest of your life, but it can't be the purpose, the end-all be-all of what you're doing. If you're kind of acting like your wedding day is your last day on earth, which a lot of people do, you're going to make decisions that might be good for your wedding day or what you think might be good for your wedding day that have very strong negative effects after that. So we need to just keep it in perspective. Yes, it's important, and yes, it needs to be very, very special, but also remember that it ends up being 4 hours and it's not the last day of your life. The next thing that will for sure lead to post-wedding depression, anxiety, overwhelm, etc., is if you are overspending, which, let's be real, for the most part is always the case. I talked about this a lot in my last episode. Make sure you go back and listen to that. But if you don't have a budget in place and you're not keeping up with your numbers and you're just spending left and right because it's my wedding day, it's the most important day ever, you are going to wake up the next day and it is not going to feel worth it. You're like, we spent how much on that? If you're just spending and spending without a plan and without worrying about the repercussions of that, you're going to wake up the next day and it's not going to feel worth it. You definitely don't want to be spending money that could benefit you in much bigger ways in your life and in your relationship. Plus, you don't want to be paying off your wedding for like 10 years. It's important and it's amazing and it's fun, but it's not going to be worth it if you're massively overspending and you're buried under a pile of debt that you have to figure out how to pay after your wedding day. I feel like so many couples are like, it's okay, like white knuckling it. Like, it's okay, it's just because it's a wedding. It's just because it's so important. Like, it's like coming, I have to do this. We have to have this. And they're just only thinking about the wedding day and not at all thinking about what life is going to be like after. And it just sucks after. If you're like frustrated and stressed and you don't feel like it was worth it, but you already spent the money. So now you're just working to pay that off instead of having a ton of money that you could use towards a house or towards a honeymoon or towards your life together. Another thing that definitely contributes to post-wedding depression is you are 100% focused on your wedding day. So you're completely missing the present moment and the journey to the altar. I know it kind of sounds cheesy, but it really is not going to be worth it if you didn't have an amazing journey to the altar where you were creating a life together and creating a future together and becoming the person you want to be and really focusing on getting the most out of all of those moments leading up to the big day. There's so many opportunities to just get really close with your partner and with your family and with your friends. There's so many cool experiences you can have. And if you're just so focused on the wedding day, you're missing all of that. And you'll wake up the next morning and that like 6 to 8 hours, 4 hours of the reception is just not going to feel worth it if you didn't get anything else out of the rest of the process. It's so true that if you're not really getting the most out of these days, weeks, and months leading up to your wedding day and really soaking in these juicy, beautiful moments that you have, the next day you're going to wake up and your wedding is not going to feel worth it and you're probably just not going to feel great. Feeling like you wasted a bunch of time and a bunch of money on something that wasn't really that worth it will definitely give you like a lot of depression and anxiety. That's a perfect recipe for post-wedding depression for sure. Another huge factor in post-wedding depression is if your self-worth is dependent on this picture-perfect wedding day. A lot of people literally like put everything into their wedding day because they think that it's saying something about them. I think that there's like this stigma that if you have this beautiful, perfect wedding day, then it shows that you're successful and you found the love of your life and you're doing so great. But we all know that your Instagram grid is not the full story. So trying to get self-worth from having a big, perfect wedding is just going to be a disaster. So many brides try to prove themselves in this process. And I think usually you fail because you can't really prove anything with your wedding day, but there's so much pressure to be who they think they should be, to be a wife. They're trying to prove themselves to their new family. They're trying to prove themselves to their friends. And it just ends up being a recipe for disaster. Another thing that is a huge contributor to post-wedding depression is if you are making a mess of all of your relationships during the process. If you are being a bridezilla, your relationship with your partner is getting worse, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends are all getting worse. You're going to wake up the next day and nobody's going to like you and you're going to feel like shit. Just the fact that the word bridezilla exists kind of gives people like an excuse to just be awful and not take ownership of what's going on for them. And it really can just wreak havoc on all of your relationships in your life. Remember, stay tuned for the rest of the episode because I'm going to tell you how to not do all this stuff and how to make it amazing. We're almost through the negative stuff, I promise. But I just want to really highlight what's causing this so that you can see, oh, I'm doing that. Or just making sure that if you feel it starting to happen, that you can stop it. And then you can apply my advice for how to make it amazing that I'm going to tell you in just a minute. One more thing that really contributes to post-wedding depression is if you're really hurting your body throughout the process. So many people have an expectation of what they want their body and skin and everything to look like on their wedding day, but they're so stressed throughout the process and they just kind of procrastinate and put it off. And so those final weeks actually leading up to the wedding day, you're not eating, you're working out a ton, and you're just putting your body through absolute havoc. And yeah, you might be able to drop those 10 pounds that you want to drop doing it that way, but you're going to feel like shit and your body is going to feel really, really, really unhealthy the next day that you wake up after your wedding. Plus, on top of all of the other stress and anxiety and overwhelm that can hit you if you're doing all these other things, if you're not taking care of your body on top of that, it's just going to 10x it. So basically, you're making decision after decision that might seem like it's going to make the wedding day what you think it needs to be, but they actually are all hurting you in the long term. I hope you can see if you are doing all of this stuff and you're doing it for months and months and months, and then you wake up the next day and you have to deal with the repercussions of all of this, it's going to be a lot and it's going to feel like shit. And you can really see why post-wedding depression is such a huge thing. Even if you're not doing all of them, or say you're just doing one of these things, it's definitely going to weigh on you the next day. And what people actually want is to wake up the day after your wedding and just be stoked about life. Your wedding day marks the first day of the rest of your lives together. So you want to wake up the next day and be stoked to get started on it, right? You want to be so excited to be together. You want to have the energy and the motivation to just be ready to start life. And if you're doing all these things and all of these things are adding up and taxing on you, then you're going to wake up the next day and you're not going to want to get out of bed. So let's not do that. So is there a reality where you can fully avoid all of this? I absolutely believe that there is. And not only that, but it can be the complete opposite. I think that you can wake up the morning after your wedding just so stoked and lit up about life that you can barely stay in bed because you're so excited to start your life. So here are my best tips for how to make this a reality. So let's talk some amazing ways to... So here is my best advice for making it so that... So how do we do this? How do we not only avoid post-wedding depression, but have the opposite? Every day is the best day ever because you had your wedding day. It's like a springboard into the rest of your life. So number one, the most important thing you can do to avoid post-wedding depression and create such an amazing life after your wedding is to incorporate a long-term focus into your wedding planning. The best way to do this is to create a vision for your happily ever after. So I sit down every single year and really write out a complete vision for my life. So I break it down into all the different areas. I'm going to do an episode on this when I do my New Year's resolutions episode, so I'll break it down further for you. But basically, I break my life down into all the important categories that I have, and then I write out what they would look like if they were everything I dreamed of. What would it be? What's the perfect thing? And I've been doing this for years now, every single year. I've had months and even years where I've written this out at the beginning of the year and then I just never even looked at it, never did any more goals or anything. And then I look back and a lot of it already happened. So I feel like there's so much power in really just writing this out and creating a vision, even if you don't end up looking at it, which I don't suggest doing, but it's so helpful to just know what you want. Know what you want and get that out into the universe and get it into your mind so that you can really start working toward that. So get out a notebook, sit down, write out the most important categories in your life, and then what they would look like if they were perfect. And I like to write this in present tense too. So like act like you're like looking around your life and it's happening right now. What does it look like if it's like everything you could possibly dream of? So I like to go really long term with this, but you can also start to kind of bring it into the nearer term. So maybe one of your lines in your vision for each category of your life is, the morning after my wedding day, I wake up and I am so stoked to be so healthy and go do my workout or stuff like that, you know? So it's like you're really creating a vision not only for the rest of your life, but like creating the vision of how you're going to immediately start living that dream life right after your wedding. I feel like having this vision and knowing what you're working towards, knowing what you want your life to look like and who you want to be in your life literally will solve 99% of the problems that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. When you have like an epic vision for your life and who you want to be, that automatically gets taken into account in all of your decisions. So you're not doing stuff just because it's your wedding. You're really doing stuff because it's who you are and it's who you want to be and it's the vision that you're building. So I'm not saying you like don't have a wedding because you're so focused on after the wedding. You can still totally create an amazing, beautiful experience, but you're less likely to do things just because it's your wedding day and you feel like you're supposed to. You're going to make choices that really add to your experience and create connection in your relationships and create memories. That is the secret to your wedding day being worth it. Making intentional choices that will have amazing impact on the long term, and they can also still be pretty and fun in the short term too. But I feel like people just do the opposite the entire wedding planning process. They choose things that will be great for the actual wedding day, but long-term impact is going to be negative for a long time. Hence, post-wedding depression. So wedding budget is totally a part of this. If you have a big vision and big plans after your wedding day, you're a lot less likely to overspend. Plus, sticking to your budget will feel more important than like a silly upgrade that isn't going to add anything to the actual experience except for maybe one cute Instagram photo or something. I just can't stress enough, you need to be in control of your budget, no matter how big or small it is, because if you're not, it's a big cloud over the entire experience. Like in the current moment, you're pretending to ignore your budget, but you can like feel in your subconscious the weight of like overspending, and you know you're gonna have to pay for it and you're stressed about how it's gonna work, and that is gonna ruin all of those experiences leading up to the wedding day, and it's gonna ruin your wedding day too. That stress and overwhelm doesn't go away for your wedding. It's still gonna be weighing on you subconsciously. And then obviously post-wedding depression, if you wake up the next day and you have so much debt and you're just like feel like you're drowning in it and you fully like let it sink in if you've ignored it the entire time, it's gonna feel shitty. It's gonna feel really shitty, and you're not gonna wake up like stoked about life. So I have a completely free wedding planning workshop. It's called Wedding Planning 101 that walks you through creating the vision for your wedding and all this stuff, but it also walks you through how to create your wedding budget start to finish. So figuring out where all the money's coming from, figuring out your total wedding budget, and then breaking that down into each of the different categories so that you know exactly how much you have to spend and you're completely in control of your budget. So it's completely free. I will link it in the resource page for this episode as well as in the show notes. So there's no excuse not to do it. It's completely free, and it has 22 free worksheets that walks you through exactly how to do this. So don't let budget be the thing that ruins your wedding day. Money is a heavy hitter when it comes to like stress and depression and overwhelm and all of those really yucky feelings that we don't want to have. So just having control over it will automatically help your situation so much, even if you don't do any of the other things that I'm suggesting. Another thing that will help you avoid post-wedding depression and just wake up stoked about life the next day is if you are soaking in the journey as you go. If you're saying to yourself, the journey sucks, it's so stressful, I hate this, why would I want to sit here and soak in it? Then we have a problem and we need to fix it. If you're like just enduring this like suckiness because you think it's going to be worth it for your wedding day, I can promise you now, it's not going to be worth it, and you're going to still be feeling the suckiness the day after your wedding, probably times 10. So it's so important to figure out where this stress and like bad feelings are coming from so that you can correct them and really start to enjoy the entire journey to the altar. I know some of it is stressful and overwhelming, but I feel like if you're organized and you know what you're doing and you have all of the checklists and everything under control and your budget under control, it's a lot easier to be in the present moment. But the other thing is just like making it a point to make it all enjoyable. So making it an entire experience to go venue shopping, and just instead of being stressed about like how we're going to afford it or like looking at trying to find the perfect one, just be there with your partner and like hold hands and skip around the venue. And then also doing that for like your catering tasting, just like making each thing such a special, important event, and taking the time to just be with your partner and enjoy each other's company is going to make this all so worth it. If you have an amazing year leading up to your wedding day and you've like created this epic vision for your dream life and you're starting on it and you're becoming the person that you want to be and you're creating your dream relationship and your dream love, no matter what happens on your wedding day, even if it was like completely canceled and it was just like you and your partner at the courthouse or something, like it would feel amazing still because of what you created in the process leading up to the actual day. Not only like your future plans, but also like all of the memories and love and connection that you created. Just like enjoy it so much, because if you're just wishing it away and white knuckling your way through it, it's not going to be worth it. I know it's kind of morbid, but like what if you don't make it to your wedding day for some reason? Like, is any of this going to be worth it? No, absolutely not. We need to fully live each day. And yes, you are planning an event, and yes, you're planning a wedding, but how can you make the process just feel so good and be so fun? How can you get the most out of all of these moments? All right, let's talk about the self-worth piece. You're not going to impress anyone with your wedding day. Let's be real, if someone's opinion of you can be swayed by your wedding, by your like chairs being upgraded and your gold silverware, they are the type of person who is going to find something wrong with everything. And they're probably the type of person that it's not worth it to try to impress. You will never get your worth from them. You will never win. So what is way more important here is how you value yourself and how you're going to be so freaking proud of yourself if you create a dream life and you're like becoming an epic human being throughout this process. And yes, you create a beautiful, amazing wedding day. I feel like there's so much more to be happy about with yourself in doing that than if you are trying to get self-worth from your wedding looking amazing on Instagram. Ask anyone how that's ever turned out for them. It's not good. If you are feeling a lot of pressure around like proving yourself, I know a lot of people feel pressure around proving themselves to their new family and making decisions so that the new family will like them. Your wedding day and the choices that you're making in your wedding is just not the answer to that. You got to find another way. And honestly, the actual answer is only you can give yourself self-worth. Nobody can actually grant that to you. So instead of focusing on impressing people or trying to be someone you're not, focus on who you are and who you want to be and become more of that person. And I promise you, everyone in your life will be not impressed, but inspired. And they'll want to be with you more. And if you're the type of person who you really want to be and you're working towards that, you're going to be the type of person that they look up to and that they want to be around. Works out much better that way. And along those same lines, another thing that will make your life so epic the next day after your wedding is if you're creating your dream relationships throughout the process. So this is your relationship with your partner, with your love, your relationship with your family, and your relationship with your friends. If you are creating visions for each of these and you are setting an intention to create deep, beautiful relationships with everyone, you're going to be able to use your wedding planning experience and your wedding day to create beautiful memories and just get way closer to everyone. It's going to be something that really brings you all together. If you're not intentional and you're kind of being a bridezilla, you're going to wake up the day after your wedding and there's not going to be anyone around you. But if you're really focused on this and being intentional about it, you're going to wake up and just feel so much love around you. It's going to be so beautiful. So when I'm doing my vision of my dream life, I include a section for my love life, a section for like my friends and my family, and then also a section with my kids, and really thinking of what I want those relationships to look and feel like and who I want to be for all of those people. Becoming someone amazing and just really, really putting effort into your relationships throughout this process is going to make it so, so, so worth it. You're going to be stoked the next day. And then another thing that is going to really, really help you out to just feel amazing the day after your wedding is to be very intentional about your health and your body through this process. So this will be another one of your categories that you create a vision around. So mine is called health, fitness, vitality, and beauty. Create a vision of what you want to feel like. You can definitely include what you want to look like and what you want your body to look like, and maybe even your ideal weight if you really want to do that. But I like to get away from the numbers and get away from what you think is going to impress everyone, but what would feel amazing for you. Like if you woke up and you just had so much energy every day that you could just get everything done, or you could do your favorite workouts and working out actually made you feel better so you couldn't not work out every day. Just feeling so alive and so amazing. So include in this how you want to look and feel on your wedding day. So instead of saying I just want to fit into my dress, say I want to feel amazing in my wedding dress. I don't want any worries about how I look to cross my mind because I just look and feel so good. My skin is completely clear and I'm just glowing. Stuff like that. It's going to be a lot easier to get behind than I need to weigh a certain amount, or I just really hope that dress zips. That kind of stuff isn't super inspiring. You got to create an inspiring vision. I always include with my vision of why I want this. So my major why around being super healthy and super fit is, it's to look good. Of course, everyone wants to look great. But it's also to be able to fully experience life with my kids. So maybe your vision, especially short term, is to just feel amazing and energetic and full of life on your wedding day. Because if you're sick and stressed and you're crash dieting and overworking out and stuff, you're not going to have the same clear mind and presence and energy that you would have on your wedding day if you're eating amazing and having a clean, happy, healthy body and you just are glowing, and it's just not going to be the same. I feel having this vision makes it so much easier to make this a lifestyle as opposed to a diet or a workout plan that you just have to do for your wedding. Everyone knows that if you can make health and exercise a lifestyle, you're just going to be a healthy and fit person. If you can really create an epic vision for your health and your fitness and your energy and your beauty, and a really cool why that inspires you behind it, then it's going to be so much easier to make it a lifestyle and easier to make healthy choices and choices that contribute to this every single day, as opposed to trying to force this on yourself. So there is my advice on how to enjoy your wedding planning process, actually get the most out of your wedding day, and on top of all of that, create an epic dream life that you're so excited to wake up to the day after your wedding. Post-wedding depression is a major thing. I feel it's kind of an epidemic, among brides. But if we know about it and we can be intentional, then I feel it's very easy to actually not only avoid post-wedding depression, but also have the opposite be true and just be completely lit up about life and in honeymoon land the day after your wedding, the way it actually is supposed to be. I hope you loved this episode. I hope you found at least some little valuable bits and pieces. You don't have to do every single thing I mentioned, and you probably have ideas for other things that you could do. but I hope that it inspired you to just get intentional in your wedding planning process. If you like this one, please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next time. Happy planning!